Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. So the topics that we are going to cover are mentioned. So one is Semicon 2023 summit, wherein Prime Minister Modi is inviting FDI to India for semiconductor manufacturing. G20 consensus, that is the G20 meetings that are going on. So consensus document has to be drafted. So it is regarding that. With reference to G20, host of other meetings are also going on, such as climate change. So there was disagreement. So this is important from exam point of view. Then with reference to digitization of land records, in Haryana, the scheme is known as Property ID. So here the Congress has raised certain concerns. So we know the positives, here we will get the shortcomings. So we should prepare for mains point of view, we should have something ready if question is asked. Now with reference to the education system, we all know there are certain concerns with the public education system. So here Bihar government is bringing in some reforms in the public education system. So concerns, issues have been mentioned over here. From Editorial and Opinion, there was an article on the National Research Foundation. So this we will see. Then there is one on the shutdown, internet shutdowns that are taking place. So the concerns associated with the same. So these two we are covering. Remember I told you sometime back that you should read more on this. So there today we have an article on the same subject. From international relations, we have Niger coup is going on. Today we will get to know about the strategic significance of Niger. And another one is India-UK FTA is coming to a closure. The discussions are going on the free trade agreement between India and UK. So that is, sum up is taking place. So this is actually in the economy section. So eco section, we are doing India, UK, but this isn't, if it is asked, it is in GS2 paper. Then there is one on gift city. So the significance that we will see in today's newspaper. Now let us come to the first news. So Semicon India 2023 summit in Gandhinagar, wherein Prime Minister Modi has given assurances or promises to semiconductor makers. He's saying that India will be your trusted global partner. Many of them have their manufacturing facilities in China. So diversify. A China plus one strategy. That is, you already have one in China, but China, there are certain concerns. So why not invest in some other player? So India can be that trusted global partner. So it's inviting the foreign companies like AMD, Micron, etc. AMD has already committed to invest $400 million in India as part of its biggest design center. Okay. Prime Minister Modi said that we are rolling out red carpet. Means we are inviting you to our country. We are going to make this easy. So this is part of India's ease of doing business reforms. So we are rolling out the red carpet. Please come to our country. India offers abundant opportunities. This is mentioned on page number 4. These abundant opportunities are, he's saying that cheap data. So a lot of people are using mobile communication. So cheap data is there. Uninterrupted power supply. Besides, we are reforming laws, labor laws, etc., to make it easy to invest and operate in the country. So these are some of the things. Further, India provides for stable macroeconomic situation. So macroeconomically speaking, your currency, etc., will be safeguarded, your investments will be safeguarded. Politically, we are stable. Plus, we have abundant supply of labor force. Okay, so India's opportunities are also stated. Now, moving beyond the article. So the main theme over here is semiconductor manufacturing. So what is India doing with that regard? Right. So this was actually covered in yesterday's newspaper, India's our semicon report card. That was the article. So you can visit yesterday's news analysis at 34 minutes, 31 seconds. All the things are listed clearly on the screen. Okay. So the schemes, I'm again repeating it. So one is in India Semiconductor Mission is there. Then there is Design Linked Incentive Scheme and PLI, Production Linked Incentive Scheme for semiconductor sector. Besides this, there is for skills, we have developed VLSI curriculum. It is part of the India Semiconductor Mission only. We are also working on open source platform for sharing of technology, for collaborating. So this is known as the RISCV program. Then investment in research center. So investment in research center is going on. And for this, India Semiconductor Research Facility is created. So these are some of the initiatives that the government has taken to promote semiconductor setup. Besides, India is also in talks with countries like US, Taiwan, etc. US, EU, Taiwan, etc. for becoming part of semiconductor alliances. For example, US has Chip for Alliance. So something like this, India wants to be part of it, which will help us get access to semiconductor manufacturing. So this is very important. I feel a lot of emphasis is there. We can get a question on the same. Next, very brief now. Scientists told Pakistan contact will show BrahMos report in person. Right? So Pak contact means Indian scientist who's arrested. Kuno National Park is there in the news. So there were cheetahs that were imported from Nigeria. So those cheetahs are there in news with reference to the Kuno. So Kuno National Park is there in the news. With reference to the G20 summit, India and Japan to try frame a consensus document. So whenever a summit concludes, after that, there is a joint declaration or a consensus document. So in this, Japan is collaborating with India to frame the consensus document. Now over here, the participation of Japan is very important because it chairs the G7. G7 is representative of the developed countries, and G7 countries are the one which are very vocal about the Ukraine-Russia war. They are especially against Russia, and India, on the other hand, has been not so vocal on Russia's involvement in the Ukraine war because of India's interests. So that is the main thing actually. So Japan's participation is very, very strategic in this regard. Okay, now we come to the city news. So road rage incident, we are seeing more and more of these road rage incidents in the recent times. So maybe that can be looked at. Okay. Women duped of rupees 20 lakh in cyber fraud. So again, cyber fraud, cyber crimes emerging. What is the government doing with that regard? What is the center doing? What are the different state initiatives of the state police forces? And that is something that we can look at. Then again, different types of cyber crimes. So all of this is part of your GS3. And these days, questions are being asked on cyber security, cyber crimes, etc. Conjunctivitis cases are in cases rise in the Tri-City. It is rising in Delhi. It's because of the floods. Okay. So conjunctivitis is a disease of the eye, and it is caused by a virus. It is a viral disease. Now this time the infection is also leading to cough, cold, fever, and it is persisting for 4-5 days. And this is highly contagious. So same PM to chip makers, same thing. Okay. Again, one more issue, when instant, there are instant loan apps that are there. So this person borrowed some 1 lakh rupees, 40,000 rupees at a very high interest rate from Chinese app known as Slice. So these people have then started harassing, they started morphing photos, so ultimately committed suicide. So just wanted to, for awareness sake. Okay. This month is Income Tax Awareness Month. Now, from here, I was thinking the following topics come to my mind from exam point of view. We're talking about income tax, etc. It should be part of your GS3. So, from income tax comes the concept of tax evasion, people not paying tax. Then the issue of black money, so on which the tax is not paid, is black money. One of the ways of evading tax is money laundering. Money laundering has been asked in your GS3 in the context of internal security. Okay. Now, one more important topic is tax base and tax buoyancy. Tax base means more people contributing income tax. So more people coming under the ambit of tax. So this would have a benefit that with the reasonable tax rate, the government can collect more taxes. So this is one of the grudges of especially the salaried class, that they are paying the tax while people from the business and other communities are not paying tax. People involved in cash-based transactions, etc., they are not paying tax. So widening the tax base means bringing more people under the ambit of taxation. Other definition is tax buoyancy. Buoyancy means floating. So here it means that with the increase in GDP, if it is a buoyant system, with the increase in taxes, GDP, the taxation will also increase in the same proportion. So that would be known as tax buoyancy. We want a buoyant system over here. We don't want that GDP is growing, but tax is not growing at the same rate. So definitions also can be asked with reference to tax-based, tax buoyancy, going by the recent GS3 papers. Very bookish type questions are also being asked. Okay, so we have also Nature Conservation Day. Then we also have the World Hepatitis Day. Now we need to know about the hepatitis disease actually, especially from pre-perspective. So this year's World Hepatitis Day 2023, that is, the theme is one life, one liver. These things are asked in the prelims. So one life, one liver. Now what is hepatitis? Hepatitis is a term which is used to describe inflation of liver. So it is basically disease associated with liver, disease of liver. And it can be caused by anything. It can be caused by drugs, alcohol, genetic disorder, or even autoimmune disorder. That is, your immune system automatically targets cells in your liver. So it can be caused by anything. Now, based on all of this, we have several classes of hepatitis. So, and by the way, hepatitis is a viral disease. So one is hepatitis A and E. These are caused by contaminated blood and water. So this may last for a few days and then be normal. Then we have hepatitis B and C. It is a chronic disease. It is of a greater concern. And it is not caused by contaminated food. It is caused by contaminated blood. So coming into contact with contaminated blood or through body fluids. Something like HIV. Okay. Then we have hepatitis D, which is a lifelong liver damage, which may lead to death. So it is caused by hepatitis delta virus. Now, most of these hepatitis, there is preventive care. So prevention and vaccination is available for the same. Met forecasts heavy rain in Himachal Pradesh, warns of landslides and flash floods. Meteorological Department is coming under Ministry of Earth Sciences. Yesterday we talked about climate resilient infrastructure, right? So climate resilient roads as well as infrastructure. We have a scheme of the Punjab government, Ghar Ghar Ration Yojana, where the ration will be delivered at the doorstep. So doorstep delivery instead of people going to the public distribution centers, a public distribution shop. So just scrolling. Okay. Nothing. Property ID, next article. Property ID project marred by grafts, errors affecting lives of 1 crore Haryanvi, says Congress. So we normally hear about digitization of land records, why it is needed. So obviously property ID is having an ID to the property. So we talk about the positives. Today we get the issues. So first, let us see what are the positives. So one is it will help reduce litigation. It will bring in more transparency. We know who the landholder is for a particular, who's the owner, who's the tenant. So all that detail will be easily available. And it will also help deal with the issue of Benami lands. So Benami lands, so it again involves money laundering and tax evasion. So those things will also be addressed. Now, what are the concerns? The concern is very simple: wrongful entry. With wrongful entry, for example, a property is there, wrong name has been mentioned next to it. Sometimes the tenants have been registered as owners of the land. In some cases, there is some discrepancy in the size of the plot. So these are the concerns. Now, that's fine. These things are there. But the issue arises when you want to get it changed. And for that, a lot of black money, red tapeism, so all those things are there. So people have to run from one place to another, one office to another. So that causes a lot of harassment. So this needs to be dealt with. Next important article is consensus eludes G20 climate meet in Chennai. So G20 climate meet in Chennai. Now this is very simple. So when we talk about the issue of climate, there is difference of opinion between the developed countries and developing countries. The views of developed and developing has been listed over here. So both bloc says that climate change needs to be addressed. But there is a difference in how much responsibility both should take. So developing countries are in favor of common but differentiated responsibilities. Common responsibility, but differentiated responsibilities. Developed countries have already developed, but they caused a lot of pollution in that process. So they are the ones who are actually responsible for the global warming, the present day global warming that we witness. So they should share a higher burden on mitigation of the climate change or global warming mitigation. While developed countries says that common responsibility should be there, developing countries should take greater responsibility because they are the ones who are actually polluting more. So their burden should be increased. So that is the main issue. While developing countries argue that they need to industrialize and they need the economy to grow. For that, they need more energy. Okay. So let's get on to the important points now. Developed countries over here have said that they want peaking of emissions by 2025. That's the maximum emissions that will be there. That will be till 2025, not beyond this. So emissions will go on, but this will be the maximum year where maximum emission is going on. Okay, from there on, it should come down. 2026, 2027, it should lower by then. So there should be global emission reduction and 60%. Overall, it should be, by 2035, it should be 60% from the 2019 baseline. So that means the pollution in the emission in 2035 should be 60% of what was happening in 2019. So that is what I understand over here. Now coming to the developing countries. Developing countries are saying that developed countries should provide greater finances and technology. So that is there. Besides, they said developed countries should advance net zero targets by 10 years and become carbon neutral by 2040. So that means the present target is to be carbon neutral is 2050. They want it to be 2040. Net zero and carbon neutral are the same things. Okay, moving on. So now for something for heart basically. So new heart guidelines by the American Heart Association. So basically they're saying that less medicines, more focus should be on lifestyle changes. That should be the first priority. And angioplasty for removing of the clot. So all that should come second. Porous border and Manipur crisis, staple Dweja. So these are discussed today. It's in the explained section. I'm not covering it. No woman has qualified to join military's special forces, says government to Lok Sabha. So yeah, so army is there, one with where the maroon cap. Then we have the Indian Air Force. So there were 2 volunteers, while in Navy there were 20 women volunteers. So none of them have qualified to join the training into the military special forces. So Air Force, it is known as Garud Commandos, while Navy, they are known as Marine Commandos. Bihar for reforms to bring back students to government schools. So it is seen that the students of the government, one is the government schools, people who are enrolled, they prefer to move towards the private schools. So that is one thing. And those who are still studying in the government school, they tend to take tuitions for maths, science, education, computers. One way it is indicative of poor learning or poor learning outcomes in school, public schools or the government schools. Now, right, so that's the basic issue. So public schools, we see private coaching plus high dropout rates. Now, one of the reason is vacancy of teachers were noted, plus poor quality of learning. Besides, school toilets, availability of toilets is not there. So it matters when it comes to the girls students. Then there was unused funds that were identified up to the tune of, it says rupees 1400 were lying idle. I don't think it is rupees 1400. It has to be more than this. Okay, so these are the basic issues. So what is the government doing? The government is first saying that there's unused funds need to be spent. Then there should be mandatory audits. So at least 2 in a week. So 2 inspections should be there in a week. Plus more spending, vacancy of teachers should be filled. Plus free of cost coaching for medical and engineering should be provided. Explained today to discuss abnormally high rainfall events. So this was covered previously in one of the opinions. So it's very simple. One is the monsoon branch from the Bay of Bengal, branch from Arabian Sea, right? So this, then we have the Indian Ocean dipole positive. So that again leads to greater monsoons. And this has been these 2 plus the western disturbance. So these 3 events have led to the greater precipitation, greater rains in the northern part. Whereas here we are seeing the dry zone. Coming to the editorial and opinion section. So first one is about Manipur. That is, center does well to call CBI to probe sexual assault case. So right, so we all know this. This is routine news that is there. Now let's cover the next article, ease of doing research. This is with reference to the National Research Foundation. So National Research Foundation is a bill basically, which is cleared by the cabinet, and now it will be placed in the Parliament's monsoon session. Now let us see the basics of the NRF. So the author is saying that the NRF has 3 missions, 3 goals. So one is capacity building at universities and colleges. capacity building for research, National Research Foundation. And this will be done via funding. So funding will be provided for the same. Then the idea is to promote research in cutting edge technologies. For that, again, funding is required. And the next one is those research should also have a societal impact. So with the needs, science and the needs for the Indian society. So funding is there. And besides funding, even a platform is getting created so that they can train, it can provide for sharing of research and also for mentoring activities. So mentoring activities, guiding as to what type of research has to be done, right? So what are the priority areas? So that can also be done. Now with reference to funding, we see the trinity of the three, that is academia, industry and government. Government is contributing, private sector will contribute, and academia. So when the industry is contributing to funding, they will say that we want research in so and so field. These are the concern areas. So it will be more industry oriented. So it will be good for industry to participate in funding activity. Plus it augments the government's finances. Government does not have so much finance also. So industry will help in that regard. By the way, we are spending 0.7% of GDP on research and development. GERD, it's referred to as this. So 0.7% of the GDP. GERD is 0.7% of GDP. So this is the main thing that the author is saying. But now, it is very easy with so many articles coming up. You can easily find information on the NRF. You can also see it from the PRS document. Next article is rise and fall. So it's basically saying that the government does not have adequate rice, adequate grains. There are concerns about food security because of the monsoon. So the states should be mindful. They should not ask for more than what is already provided for. And likewise, distilleries also, because they also make their liquor from grains, cereals. Now this article, not so digital India, internet shutdown in Manipur violates fundamental rights, Supreme Court ruling. So we should prepare this internet shutdown topic. This is important, right? So you should do additional reading also. So it was just covering for today. So internet shutdowns are normally done with reference to the concerns of public safety, right? So that fake news, fake messaging should not take place, so which can instigate people and more violence takes place. So that is the main purpose of internet shutdown is public safety. Now in that process, obviously, it violates Article 19. Article 19 provides for free speech, but when you block the availability of internet and social media, etc., so you are affecting the citizens' freedom of speech and expression. And many a times it is seen that these internet shutdowns is like the first case resort. It's the first instance, and internet shutdown is declared. Right, so that happens. And these internet shutdowns go on for a very, very long period of time. Like in the case of Jammu and Kashmir, and now with the case of Manipur, very, very long period of time. So this is first of all affecting your freedom of speech and expression. It is affecting flow of information. It weakens reporting as well as ability to hold those responsible for ongoing violence, right? So accountability is also affected because of this. Secondly, there is this principle of doctrine of proportionality. That is, restrictions are provided in the Constitution, but these restrictions should be reasonable and proportional to the threat. For example, the concerns of public safety. Now here, there can be lesser restrictions. Right? So, lesser restrictions can be there. Internet shutdown should not be the first case resort. So that is what the author is stating. Next, with the internet shutdowns, it leads to economic losses. A lot of startups, a lot of things are today based on internet, so that is affected. Plus, naturally, with economic loss comes unemployment. So, according to some report, estimated loss in 2022 was 1,500 crores due to internet shutdown. Right, so these 2 points have been mentioned in this article today. Now, there is a mention of a Supreme Court ruling known as Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India. So this Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India is with reference to internet shutdown. It was in 2019. So this was with reference to the internet shutdown which took place in the wake of abolition of Article 370. So in Jammu and Kashmir. So there again, the Supreme Court had said that internet shutdown should not be the first case resort. You should go by the system of doctrine of proportionality. Now, how I think about this exam is sometimes UPSC is asking what was held in so-and-so case. So maybe Anuradha Bhasin case you should study, and with reference to Article 19 and internet shutdown. So this you should and you must do. So it's very easy to find. Now it's not opening, but on Wikipedia everything is available. Then there is live law. All those places you can get the analysis. From Delhi to Manipur, not interested. In a new world, India's moment. This is about the semiconductor industry, the schemes of the government. Some of them are borrowed from here. Now coming to the international news. Russia says Ukraine drone shot outside of Moscow. Okay. Then African leaders who were meeting Putin, they said that the war must end. Japan raises alarm over China-Russia ties and the Taiwan issue. Worst threats, Taiwan worst threat since World War II. Now, basic thing is Japan released a white paper document. So many countries do it. So they released a white paper document listing their strategic concerns. So they said that the close bond between China and Russia, Japan does not have good relations with China, and Japan and Russia have also been rivals in the past. So with the close bonding with these two countries, plus the North Korea issue, Japan is facing one of the worst threats since the World War II. Further, there may be a China-Taiwan war also. There was previous year we almost thought that there is a war around the corner. Further, it has listed how many warheads, nuclear warheads, etc. are there. Typhoon hit a typhoon in China, right? So tropical cyclones are known as typhoons in the South China Sea region. China's South China Sea region. Okay. Niger general who led coup seeks support from country people, international partners. Okay. Now, by now, I hope you know that this is my drawing of Africa. The western part is Niger. This is a landlocked country. Okay. So fine, Niger general now seeks support from international partners. Now, what are the concerns? So that's what I wanted to cover today. So Niger remains the only reliable partner of US in West Africa region, which can help it fight Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. So that is one thing. Second, there is a concern with the coup and with the need for international cooperation. And it's, they have overthrown the democratic government. So US goes by the democratic values. So there is a concern that Niger may align with Russia. They may seek the support of the Wagner group. So this happened, something like this happened with reference to Burkina Faso, where they took the aid of the Wagner group. So Wagner actually already has its sights on the Niger, and Wagner means Russia. Further, Niger is a large producer of uranium. So one is on the gift city, the IFSC exchange, and the other is India UK FTA. So let's cover this. So we had finance minister who was in Gujarat. So she was there to at the launch of Corporate Debt Market Development Fund and AMC Repo Clearing Limited. Don't have to take load on this. Okay. So here she said certain things. So here she said that Indian companies, Indian firms, can list directly on the IFSC exchange. They can list directly on the IFSC exchange and raise capital. So they can raise money from here. So previously, the previous arrangement before the IFSC was that if Indian company wanted to raise capital from outside, especially wanted to list in the stock exchanges, that was not possible. The laws did not allow for it. So the only option for them was through American depository receipts or global depository receipts. So from there, Indian companies could raise capital. Now they can register at the IFSC and raise capital. So that is one theme of this article and the main one that she mentioned. Second, she's saying is that this government has rationalized the laws for securities market. And there were multiple laws. So all of them have been streamlined into securities market code. So these are the two themes that she is saying. So one is how companies can raise capital through IFSC exchange, and second one is rationalization of security laws in the country. Next, with reference to India-UK free trade agreement. So free trade agreement, obviously India and UK preferential treatment would be given to trade, but there were certain concerns. So those concerns is what we want to focus. So one has been mentioned as intellectual property rights. The other is rules of origin. The two issues have been mentioned over here, IPR and rules of origin. So intellectual property rights, that is India may have to, if Indian companies are UK companies are trading, so intellectual property rights has to be preserved. Normally the issues arise with reference to the pharmaceutical companies. Nowadays we can also talk about semiconductors and high-end technology, so IPR. So it's not mentioned as to IPR is covering which all areas. The other thing is rules of origin. Rules of origin prescribes minimum processing that should happen in an FTA country. So that final manufactured product may be called originating goods in that country. So rules of origin. So let me explain. It cannot be like India. Let's say India is trading with the UK. It cannot be like India takes material from China, rebrands it and sells it to UK. That cannot be deemed as being originating from India. It is coming from China. So that is rules of origin. So minimum content, let's say for manufacturing, we do need certain Chinese components, maybe for semiconductor manufacturing. So minimum percentage, something should be there so that we can say that yes, this is actually made in India. This origin is India and this is not a Chinese product. Otherwise, this could be a conduit for UK-China trade, right? So we don't want that.